9 months old. 9 months old. This savage did the most unthinkable thing to a 9-month-old baby. And he was on the run for a long time without turning himself in, knowing he was a fugitive of the law for doing this horrible, despicable act to a 9-month-old baby. I'm about to read y'all an article, man. And by the end of this article and by the end of this video, I need every single person who's watching this to be on board with what should happen to this savage. I don't care what your political reference is. I don't care what your religious point of reference is. When it comes to this, at the end, we should all, as decent human beings, agree that this savage should be executed. Hear me out. After the trial's over with. Because one thing I still believe in America, that we do right, is we allow a person a fair trial. Once the fair trial is done, we all should be on board that once this man is convicted and found guilty of his crimes, no plea bargain, he should be brought out back and executed. Actually, I'm going to give you a phenomenal decision that we should allow him to make. See, we're kind. And by the end of this video, you can agree or disagree on a decision that I think we should vote into law, that this savage should have an option to opt out for or take the method of execution that the state has chosen. Let's get into this story. Despicable and disgusting. Man accused of R-wording 9-month-old arrested after years on the run. And I'm going to keep this savage's picture up while we read this, and I'm likely going to keep his picture up the entire video, which I never do. And you know what? It isn't for the fact that we want to give this dude notoriety. It's for the fact that everyone needs to have this evil, demonically possessed man's face etched in their head, because somewhere years ago, this man victimized a baby. And it's disgusting, and it's despicable, and it's pathetic. And it took law enforcement all these years to finally capture this dude. Jackson, Tennessee, coming from WKRC. A Tennessee man accused of R-wording an infant has been arrested after his indictment, say police. Isaac Hayes, 27, has been wanted on charges of aggravated child R-word, conspiracy to commit aggravated child R-word, and especially aggravated solicitation of, since 2020, reports WMC. The victim was only 9 months old at the time of the crime. 9 months old! 9 months! I just did a video where a man received 8 months for unaliving a seagull. So what do you think we should do this dude if we given 8 months to people who take the life of a seagull? When you take the innocence of a 9-month-old child, there is only one penalty and one penalty alone. You breathe your last breath. Boom, done. Police in Jackson, Tennessee announced Hayes has been arrested by the department's Major Crimes Unit and U.S. Marshals on Friday after being alerted by the Memphis Police Department that he had been traveling in Jackson for several days. Investigators tracked him to a housing complex where officers spotted him in a doorway. He was arrested without incident. He's currently incarcerated at the Shelby County Jail. Who knows somebody at the Shelby County Jail? I know they got inmates in the Shelby County Jail. I know they got some gangsters doing time in the Shelby County Jail. Some dudes who got daughters, mothers, sisters, friends. You know what I mean? And they all have children who they love. I know they got dudes doing time in there who are trying to get out and get their life in order so they can get back to their 9-month-old. There he is. Again, he did that to a baby. He did it to a baby, man. This is what I think should happen. I think that this guy, once he's convicted and tried by a jury of his peers, We should vote into law. This is it. We should vote into law. Luke 17:2. It's in the Holy Bible. This is what we should vote into law. And this is what the law would be, in my opinion. Legislative branches, congressmen, senators, they got some evil congressmen and senators. We know that. But they got some good ones too. So they probably wouldn't vote for this. But there are some states that might put this into practice, I think. Some state legislative branches and judicial systems like Florida, they would probably vote for this. Luke 17:2, coming out the Holy Bible. This is my proposition for a new law. It would be better for him to have a millstone tied around his neck and be thrown into the sea than for him to cause one of these little ones to sin or cause harm to one of these little ones. These are the words of Jesus Christ in the Bible. And like I said, I don't care what your party and political affiliation is. You should be on board with this. You ain't even got to agree with the Bible or believe in it to know that this particular statement by Jesus should be mandated into law. And this is what the law is. Once this man right here, savage animal, 27-year-old Hayes, is convicted. It took him long enough. He'd been on the run since 2020 when he committed these crimes. They finally indicted him for doing what he did. And you got to believe that for them to bring the indictment, that they had to have forensic evidence that this child, this baby, was violated in the worst way possible when they did the analysis and test. I can't imagine having my child or any child forensically analyzed for SA abuse. I don't know what kind of evil has to live inside a man's soul, creep into his mind to make him commit this type of atrocity. And he's not the only one. Every day, we're finding people who do this stuff. And yes, I know about the infamous Epstein list, but I'm talking about hardcore facts, scientific, analytical facts that say we found DNA evidence on this child that matches this man. I'm not certain what the evidence is, but it was enough to get an indictment by a grand jury for this man. Now he's going to go to trial. And the law that I propose is the law, Luke 17:2, that once this man's convicted, he has a chance to confess that he is a savage animal and should no longer live freely in society. And actually, he should not breathe any more breaths because he is such a threat to the innocents that we can't allow him to live. But hopefully, he chooses to be repentant. And this man ain't repentant. If you want to run after doing what he did, you are not a repentant person. You're not sorry for what you did. You're trying to hide because you don't want to face the consequences. Nah. He got to face the consequences. And if he has any kind of decency left in that wicked soul of his, he will say, I choose Luke 17:2 to implement in my life. I execute order Luke 17:2. I'm going to show you a picture of a millstone. I'm going to remove this fool for a second. Here's a picture of a millstone. This is the ancient millstone that Jesus was referencing when he said it's better to tie one of these around your neck and throw yourself into the ocean than it is to harm a child. We're going to give him the option to tie one of these around his own neck. We ain't going to put it on his neck. He's going to tie it around his own neck. He's going to tie the knot around the millstone. And we're going to help him push the millstone in. Or we'll give him a button. He could press the button because it's better to throw yourself in than it is to harm one of these childs. He did it once. He'll probably do it again. He can never be free again. He will do it again. So, under the new proposed thing that I believe we should bring into legislation, Luke 17:2, he can throw himself in the sea and let his body sink to the bottom where sharks or lobsters or something else will eat him, whatever's down there. That's fine. And it's going to be over with. But if not, then the state, you see, if he's not repentant enough and sorry enough to accept his fate and execute on his own behalf, Luke 17:2, then the state can say, no problem. You don't have to choose that. We're going to go ahead and fry you in the electric chair. That's the other option. He gets the electric chair. He don't get no lethal injection. He don't get no lethal injection. That's easy. He don't get the gas chamber. He gets to get fried. Crank up old Sparky. We have to defend the children, y'all. If, as a society, we can't defend the most vulnerable, children and elderly, then what good are we? We're pretty pathetic. And that's why I said, I don't care what you believe in. This isn't about belief. Everybody, 100% of the people should be on board. I don't care. Everybody should be on board. We allow him to go through trial so he can make peace with his maker while he's going to trial. He did not give that 9-month-old any opportunity to make any kind of peace, because a 9-month-old can't even comprehend to do anything, not making choices, just living, relying on his mother and his father to defend him. And a savage does this, swoops in. Man, I don't even like using the word animal for people like this because it's dishonorable to animals. Animals don't behave like this. This is worse than savagery. This is demonic. What say you? Share in the comments. What do you think his punishment should be? I think there's only one option once the trial's over and once the guilty verdict's reached. One option. And we don't need to drag it on for a decade. It takes too long. This needs to be done within a week. Forget a week. It needs to be done the same day. Same day, guilty. Send him out there to the Gulf and drop him. You know, that's what he chooses. If not, we're cranking up old Sparky. And you're just going to fry. It sounds harsh, but what he did was even harsher. And we actually show him mercy and grace by allowing this dude a trial. That's how great of a nation we are. But we also have a responsibility after the trial to implement punishment accordingly. And for these crimes, every state, it should be a federal law that anybody who does these things should face the death penalty, capital punishment. That's it. There ain't no life imprisonment, only capital punishment for doing what he did. Everybody should be on board. I don't want to hear nothing about no MAPS, no minor attracted person. I don't want to hear about that sick stuff. That's sick. That's disturbing. That's demonic. Good grief, man. We lost our ever-loving minds as a society. I pray for this poor child. I really do, that went through this in his family, her family. I just know it's a 9-month-old, and I don't think any more information needs to be released. Except we need to be updated on an immediate trial and immediate capital punishment execution once the trial's over with for this savage. This is a savage animal, a disgusting, worst of the worst. This dude deserves no decency. And we're still showing he's still going to get fed on our tax dollars sitting in the Shelby County Jail in Tennessee. That's all I got to say about that, y'all. I mean, I can't even fix myself to laugh about this. You know, on my channel, you know, I like to get animated and say hilarious things relating to some of these unusual and unique crimes, but there's nothing. The only thing unusual and unique about this dude is how evil he is. And I can't even make fun on this video. Like and subscribe, man, for this dude to get capital punishment.